Hey, y'all, watch this.
Welcome to another episode of the Jersey String Band podcast. I'm your host, Alex Walton. We got next to me my co-host and captain,
Pat Walton.
and our special guest today.
Louis Speziale.
Awesome. Thank you for coming up. Thank you for joining us on this episode.
Proud to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's just get started at the beginning.
Okay.
How did you become to exist in this hobby?
So, for those that don't know, I am the proud son of the former captain and drill director of the Joseph A. Ferko String Band. And I guess it was a cold October, November evening. I was out playing roller hockey in South Philadelphia and had to go to the bathroom. So rolled home to the house, and in the living room is Tom King and my dad sitting and discussing their 1982 theme, Golden Memories of the Bowery. So, not sure where my mom was that day as I rolled through the house to go to the bathroom, but I climbed the steps and went to the bathroom, and I came down, and Dad asked me to sit down, and he needed to talk to me. So, it was at that point that he and Tom asked me to be the newspaper boy for the 1982 Ferko presentation.
Oh, cool.
And I was more worried about going out and playing hockey, and I said, "Yeah, Dad, whatever you want. We'll talk about it later." So, went back out, played hockey, finished playing the hockey, and came back and finally sat down to dinner and said, "What did I just agree to?" So that was the beginning. That's how it all started. From there, you can blame my dad and Tom King for getting me involved in this crazy hobby of ours, but from there, I took a year off. My two aunts, my Aunt Lucille and my Aunt Lorraine, are choreographers. Mm-hmm. Aunt Lorraine did a lot of choreography for the Fancy Brigades and other string bands through the years. Aunt Lucille did some, but not as much as Aunt Lorraine. So the next year, Aunt Lorraine was the choreographer and presentation director, I guess, for the Entertainers New Year's Brigade, and they needed a dancer, a performer, and I got recruited to perform with the Entertainers in 1983.
So how old were you in 82 for the 82 performance?
Yeah, I was 14 years old.
Okay.
I was 14 years old in high school, St. John Newman in South Philadelphia, with a lot of mummers, a lot of South Philadelphia mummers in Fralinger and Quaker City and South Philly and Hegeman, and here I am walking in as the son of a captain,
and not just any captain
in South Philadelphia. It was a little odd, and then walking in as a first prize newspaper boy was even a little bit more fun. So I think we mentioned a little earlier, I made a lot of good friends through that. The Harry Browns of the world, the Frank Passios, Fred Vicarios, all these guys that I went to school with at Newman, all South Philadelphia individuals who were mummers through the years, and became friends with them. I was the Bridesburg guy, and they were all the South Phillies guys. So, again, from there it went to the Entertainers. The following year, I joined as a marshal to Ferko. I was born and raised at 29th and Snyder, and 28th and Snyder was the Durning String Band. And Dad was insistent that I don't join Ferko, that I join Durning and get my feet wet and get my experiences. And this is going to sound wrong, but why would I join anywhere but the award-winning Ferko String Band with my award-winning father? And against his wishes, I joined Ferko. And my first year playing was the Silly Symphony year as a saxophone player, alligator. So I was in the back line with an alligator tail, you know, as Lord would say, 10 feet long, and it really wasn't that long. But and that's my career started from there. One year after another, I was fortunate to be a primary dancer pretty much for every one of my years up through 2018, where I retired from performing.
Now, once you retired, did you enter in kind of any office positions within the band?
No, I if you remember the 2018 parade, it was the very cold, 6 degrees, and at the time I was theme chairman, and my dad had just passed away in November of that year, and my daughter, Pop's granddaughter, was going to be the first young lady in costume for the Joseph A. Ferko String Band on New Year's Day. She performed the role as Tinkerbell in our Neverland theme. So it was a tough. It was a tough 3 months. Dad was struggling at the end in October, September, October, and eventually succumbed to 8 years of fighting cancer, and I just was not in the right time and mind frame that New Year's morning.
I fully understand.
It just wasn't the same.
Right.
And I was there 6 o'clock in the morning unloading props and building props, and my daughter was back at the clubhouse.
Going through the motions, but not enjoying the motions.
Yeah,
There's something missing.
That monumental day for the Ferko String Band, for my family, for my daughter, for my dad, just lost meaning for me. And I was so focused on getting the band on the street that day that I lost focus of me and my family. And I don't have one picture of my daughter and me from that day, and I regret that. I regret that for my daughter. I regret that for my family. It was tough. It was a tough day. So to answer your question, no, I stepped away in its entirety. I was asked to come back and help as a performer in 2019 parade. By luck, I don't know how you want to call it, but September of 2018, I had a heart attack. I had heart failure, and I was seconds from dying. And I was in the ER, and I just never looked back. I have a fear of dying in costume.
Okay.
And I miss performing. I miss being part of that, entertaining the crowd and being part of, the hobby and that aspect of it. But I just couldn't do it for my family to risk my health and my life. It's a fear. It was a fear of mine, and I haven't put a costume on since that New Year's morning. Well, I did march. I did help the band once or twice that year before I had the heart attack, but I haven't put a costume on since 2018. So,
Well, it's an understandable fear. People don't realize how much we move, how much we go, and
absolutely,
you sit there and you run through a routine, and then you stop and you're just sitting there. And you're sucking wind no matter how many times you've done it.
Absolutely.
Your body's going on muscle memory. You're not thinking.
It's not the healthiest hobby either. At certain points too.
That time of year, you're eating. If you're not eating takeout, you're not eating.
Absolutely.
So it's not exactly
Drinking.
like it's and then there's a couple. Yeah, you got to take the edge off every once in a while. So
yeah, the whole heart attack was based on stress.
Yeah.
And again, it was a difficult year with Dad, and then the whole New Year's situation. So, from there, I just I laid low. I just became, complacent and happy to worry about me and my family and my health. So and that was the end of my long career
Now,
performing.
Now, while performing, you said you did play saxophone at least that one year, and then you did a majority of your time dancing. Did you prefer dancing, or did you prefer playing, or was it a little bit of both?
No, I joke that I thank God I can move and I can dance. That my aunts and my dad's background as choreographers and dance, parlayed to my fancy footwork. But no, I actually preferred performing.
Just dancing and performing?
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily New Year's Day. It was throughout the year. When we would do concerts, I don't know if you had ever had an opportunity to see one of our concerts and shows. I shouldn't say concert, I should say show. We put on a show and we performed. We did 5, 6, 7 different routines, as part of our show, our concert. And it was that excitement that I got to see the smiling faces of our audience, to see the smiling faces, and to take somebody's sadness for 2 hours and make them happy.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about this hobby.
That's the best part about the hobby.
Oh, I love it every minute.
Absolutely. And that's what I miss. That's the part that I miss. It's New Year's Day is one thing. The excitement and the enthusiasm and the build up to that 4.5 minutes. That's one thing. But you feel empty, right? After that 4.5 minutes, you're like,
yeah.
Oh no!
Now what?
I did.
Well, there's that initial burst at the end when you're done, and then you're like, oh.
Well,
there is a little bit of that.
There is that lull,
absolutely.
and I'm lucky enough, and I mentioned this before, that as a captain, I have a different experience leaving the judging area. My experience is I say hi to you. Well, I say hi now to you, but but I also say hi to the other people as we go along, and our fellow association members. Talk to TV, and then our band is waiting for me around the corner. But I have an opportunity I'm right there against the fans,
right?
So I can get a picture. Come on over, come, turn around, get a picture. So I get the instant interaction.
Absolutely.
And it's so rewarding.
Yeah, and exactly. So, as a dancer, or we were very regimented at Ferko. But
oh yeah,
that's just the upbringing that we had. But the ability to be in the back line as a performer marching up Broad Street. Having the chance to talk to the audience and just the sidelines and the crowd and everything. Even on New Year's Day, that was a good fun part of it.
Oh yeah.
But
the fans make it.
Oh, absolutely. And I was privileged. It wasn't an easy career, but I was privileged to be in front as drill director, as assistant drill director for my dad. Later in his drill director, presentation director career, and to be able to meet the paying customer on those parades and represent the band as a leader is just a pride that I just can't explain.
I know that feeling. Trust me, I do.
Yeah, it's you're representing the band that's behind you.
Yes.
I was never captain. I filled in, for Dad and for Phil and the Anthony and other captains as necessary. But, I did have that honor to be out front and talk to the audience, talk to the paying customers. And after our concerts, our shows, the crew of dancers that performed the finale would stay around and talk to the people and explain what we were. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that feeling was just unbelievable, and that's something that I do miss.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, no. Listen. Something that I will definitely miss when my time comes to step away, as at least captain, at least, and then I know that time will come eventually. But yeah, no, it's such a special feeling, you know.
It is. It truly is.
Because you can literally look in someone's eyes and see them as a child.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're sitting there with oxygen hose coming off their face, and they're there, arm pumping, and for that couple minutes, you made their day, and they're they're an 8-year-old again, you know.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And we had the privilege, I guess, to represent the string bands and the mummers all up and down the East Coast. I mean, we did 2.5 hour concerts in upstate New York and Massachusetts and Mohegan Sun Casino up in, so, and then when we down into Florida, we did 3 or 4 different tours of concerts in Florida, all to smiling faces, and you just gave them an out. Mm-hmm. You gave those customers and that audience an out for 2 hours, and that was just so rewarding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the rewarding factors of this hobby.
Absolutely, and again, it's
the most important part of this hobby.
Yeah, and at times I think it's lost, mm-hmm. And I wish everybody would have that opportunity. I had the talent to dance and perform and be out there and speak on behalf of the band, and but then there's others that are saxophone players and banjo players and accordion players who are also as critical to the success.
It doesn't matter if you're dancing out front or you're making sandwiches at home and bringing them to the job.
It's the organization.
It's everybody there that makes it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of commandeered the.
That's great.
Lou, this is your story.
No, it's our story.
So,
yes,
it's our story. It's the mummer's story.
Yeah, going back to your father, he was a 20-year captain, right?
Correct.
What were the nights when you were? What were the nights coming home or going out to the club, whatever? And as a kid, like what was that experience like?
At home, it's ironic, I followed in the shadows of my father, proudly followed in the shadows of my father, both at this hobby and my career. I was fortunate to start a career at Honeywell that's now spanned 36 plus years. My dad had 30-something plus years at Honeywell also. So we didn't talk mummers at home. We really didn't.
Was that a mom rule?
I don't know if I guess it was a little bit of a mom rule.
No talking shop.
Yeah, I guess it was a little bit of a mom rule. But the fun part was, as a young kid, in my first couple of years, learning how he put drills together, learning, watching him with his bingo chips, moving his colored bingo chips around, and back then computers weren't a thing, and even to the couple of years that I was, fortunate to be privileged to be drill director of Ferko. I used the same bingo chips that Dad did, and, I inherited the
bingo chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard the bingo chips. I've heard of the Army men.
No, bingo.
The Army men, the different color Army men.
Yeah,
I've had
Dad used colored bingo chips to represent the different suits and everything. And,
That's not
and then
bad
he went
idea.
into his numbered routine. Everybody had numbers, and so to answer your question, we didn't talk at home, but we did talk on the ride up to the club. Mm-hmm. We did talk on the ride home from the club. His
bus rides, his
frustrations with the parade and putting a drill together and that aspect of it. But at home we really didn't talk much. Looking back, we really didn't talk much at home. It's interesting you asked that question, because I don't know if it was his doing or mom's doing, or I had a brother and a sister that that were younger than me. I don't recall conversations sitting around the TV, talking about mummers. I don't ever recall doing that. That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So no, I don't recall that.
Trust me, it's not. Sometimes I wish. Sometimes I wish I could walk away every once in a while, but with the whole family involved, and it is nice. It's different.
Yeah, the fun part, I guess, was around the holidays when the family did all get together, and my aunts were there. Aunt Lorraine, was our choreographer for years. Aunt Lucille and my Uncle John was a member of Ferko for years. My brother was a member for years. So, around the Christmas table, we
a little bit.
Yeah, Christmas, New Year's Eve, when the Daily News published the write up, and that's when you finally got to know what themes were what, and now with social media and everything else, that fun's all gone. But those conversations always took place. But
those are great conversations, especially around the holidays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, so
it's a good thing.
How many first places prizes you been?
I actually have 5.
Five?
I have 5 first prizes. A 82 as the newspaper boy. I was the shoe shine. I must have mastered the special presentations without being captain, right? So I was the paper boy in 82. I was the shoe shine boy with the train theme. I was the fisherman with the fish stick theme, and then my other one was the prisoner year. Is that right? 4, 5? I'm missing one. Ferko Plays the Palace was the 5th one. So yeah, the Bowery, Palace, Fish, Trains, and the prisoner year were my 5 first prizes. So, enjoying those with those memories will never go away. Enjoying them with the people that I grew up with and performed with, and towards the first, when I won in 82, honestly, I think my mom just took me out of the building. I don't remember partying. I don't remember any partying in 82. I mean, I was 14, probably had school the next day, and we had to make sure I get to school. But when in the 90s, and when I started becoming more involved, and I was assistant drill director under Dad and everything, and becoming a leader, board director, it meant something to be there, and to hear that hear the president Anthony come out from the back room and say first prize, and the celebration that went around it. Those are memories that I'll never forget. With my friends that to this day are still my close friends. Celebrating with them and family and everything. Those are the memories that'll last forever.
How many Blazers do you have? The old Ferko Blazer.
Very good question. I could be honest with you. I have 4 red Blazers. I have 2 of my dad's. I have mine. And I have my dad's black Blazer from when he was captain. Yeah, so I still have them. I still have the bow ties. I still have them in my closet. It was suggested I wear it to the banquet 2 weeks ago, and I thought about it for a split second and felt that it was, although
it's unique, and it's
unique.
A really cool thing, and
it is.
You wouldn't be the first one to wear it to a banquet.
I actually have before Ferko went to the Blazers, they wore what they called a summer suit, and it was a cape and a button-down shirt. I have one of them too. Now, I don't know if it was actually my dad's from the late 60s, early 70s, but I inherited one of those from my dad also. So I still have some Ferko memorabilia hanging around.
Yeah, Scott was wearing his captain's blazer at the banquet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so proud of what they're trying to do. Excited for them and their future. You know, I'm one that I can honestly say it's not my father's Ferko anymore, and that's okay. You know, things progress, things change, and you know the leadership there is doing a hell of a job to recreate what Ferko is, and I give them a lot of credit. You know, that was the only band I ever performed with, and they will forever be part of my life. They will forever be part of my family, and Ferko will always be in my blood. You know, will I go back? Never say never, but my career as a playing / performing member, I don't ever see me going back doing that. You know, for health reasons.
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, don't push yourself.
No, absolutely. Although New Year's Day now is not much better.
Hold on. I didn't say other people push you. I said
we'll
you
get into
push
that.
yourself.
We'll get into that.
There's a lot of other people that will push buttons.
It's a different type of stress now, but it's all good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
You kind of alluded to the banquet, Hall of Fame. Tell us about that. I mean, a lot of people seen the video of you know, your little speech in the circled with the members around you.
I never thought I'd be addressing the Ferko String Band again in this role, anywhere. I'm only as good as the people around me, and the people I grew up with as a baby, with Mike Caputo's, the Bob Stangos, Uncle Bob. You know, I can name names that taught me how to. Tom Ferry taught me how to be Ferko. Everybody thought I had it easy being the son of a captain, and it wasn't. I mean, those that know, right? My best friends, Mike, Anthony, Hoodie, the guys that were with us through the '90s that created the Ferko String Band of the '90s. I was part of a team, and these guys made me who I am today. And you know, to be standing here and addressing all of you, I never thought would happen. Never. Bill Weiser. You know, I never thought would happen again in my lifetime, and my heart is always here. I woke up this morning and I looked at my ring and I said, you know what? I want to bring my ring for some reason today. Why am I not wearing my ring? This ring is my heart, and this string band will forever be my heart. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Well deserved, Lou. Well deserved.
Get back to rehearsal.
What was that feeling when they said, here, you are now in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a story behind that, and Pat, you would appreciate this. As part of my role now, we were doing the rounds. We were going to each band to learn the beginning and the end of the routine. So for clock management purposes, Joe Giordino and I were going, you know, band to band, and that Sunday was Ferko was my first stop, and I had 3 more bands to go to afterwards. So with all the bands pretty much wrapping up by 1 o'clock, and I had a schedule. And, you know,
That schedule got trashed.
I had a schedule. You know, so I got up to Bridesburg by, I guess, 10:15, and you know, talked to them about the routine, the changes in the time clock and everything. Got to understand, you know, their ending and their beginning of the routine, and Joe. And I looked over to Joe. I was like, all right, we're good to go, right? And Brad Bradley, who's one of my closest friends and at Ferko, the president, said, "Hey, why don't you just hang around for a little bit?" I'm like, "Oh man, I gotta go. I gotta see these other bands." He's like, "Oh, we're gonna play Ferko Band. Sing Ferko Band." And he was just stretching. So they finally went outside to drill, as you've seen on the video, and I was still inside talking to some of the members inside, some of the old members inside. The funny part was the circle of friends that I've made, circle of family really now that I made, Mike Fichetti's, Anthony Alenardo, Ron Madden, Putty Madden, they were all there. And I'm like, this is, why are you guys here? And they're like, oh, it's their kickoff meeting and, Ferko's kickoff, and, we're just going to stay around and rehearse and watch rehearsal and everything. I'm like, all right, great. Didn't think anything of it. So finally, they go outside and we're getting ready to leave, and Brad comes up. He said, why don't you come and watch one of our rehearsals? And in my role now, I try not to get engaged with the performances. I try to remain neutral, look, there are times I do see some things, and I'm still a performer. I still see some things that I can help with. So I try to shy away, especially with Ferko. And I said, all right, I gave in. So I went out, and Sam Ragabudo turns the corner, and it was at that point then it hit me what was going on.
Sam with that big smile, right?
Yeah, and again, Sam and I go way back. We ran the string band softball league for many years together in the 80s and early 90s, and it was humbling. It truly was a humbling feeling. Not expected, not required, not wanted. I was always taught growing up, you do things for the love of it. You do things because you want to. You do things because you can. Don't do things for reward or recognition. And I always tried to live that way in my life. And for me to be recognized, again, it's still overwhelming. It's still overwhelming to be thought of in the same breath as, Bill Speziale, Tommy King, some of the people that created this hobby.
Yeah.
My name is on that same board as those people, and it's just overwhelming. And the feeling is just something that I can't describe. And even to this day, I'm tearing up now thinking about the fact that I'm being honored as a leader of an organization that I just simply love. I love this hobby. I love everything that it represents, and everything that it represented and everything that it represents now and can represent moving forward. And I'm just honored to be part of it now. My role changed, 4 years ago now. And, I'm working with the association as part of the association and not specifically one band. But, it's just an honor to be considered and thought of in the same breath as some of the people that have created this hobby and grew this hobby to where it's at.
Yeah, but you're like you just touched upon, though, with being involved, what your job is with the association, associating with the judges and making sure everything keeps going the way it's going. Without you, the bands can't do their jobs.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Pat.
And the exact feeling, what you just said, that you didn't do this for you did it for the love of the hobby, is exactly why you belong with all them.
I appreciate that. And again, thank you. And, we haven't gotten into the judges committee or the theme or the parade yet, but, when I did get that call from Sam, I had the utmost respect. I still do, obviously, for Sam. And the funny part is that the people I was just talking about celebrating with, the Phil Rotundos, the Alenardos, and the Fichettis, the Putty Maddens, we still travel. We're family now, and every year we pick a Phillies game weekend to go to, and I think we were in St. Louis, and my phone rings, and it's Sam Ragalbuto, and I'm like, I'm in St. Louis, waiting to go to a Phillies game, and I answered. I said, yeah, what's going on? I said, the answer is yes. Whatever you need me to do, yeah, the answer is yes.
Oh no.
So, he was like, well, you might want to talk to me a little bit about this before you say yes. And I said, look, I trust you. I respect you. I respect the association. I respect the leaders of the association. And however I can help you, Sam, and the association, count me in.
Yeah.
So, I'm probably getting a little ahead of some of your questions there, but...
Okay. We can talk about it.
It's your story.
Yeah, no, I know. No. It's our story. It's us. It's us. And so I said, all right, I'll call you back when I get home. And so, but back to your comment about helping. I felt, and I'm hoping, and it's been good positive feedback that. As a former drill director, as a former assistant drill director, as a former leader, creative on the creative side with the Ferko theme committee and everything, I feel I can lend something back, right? And support the hobby in another way. Yeah. So when Sam did ask, call me, and I blindly accepted it. I called him a couple weeks later, I guess a couple days later, and he said, look, Jack Daly passed away. We haven't had a judge's chair for the last 6 months or so. John Keene's been running it, and would you consider being the judging chair? And I was overwhelmed again, because that's not what I was expecting him to ask me to do. I just thought maybe he was going to ask me to help run a parade or, something, a banquet or something. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's, again, it's awesome. And, the way the story went is that Sam spoke with Dan Spencer, who's a very good friend of mine and family member that that grew to be a family member. That circle, right? That circle of friends and family that you become very close with. Sam approached Dan and said, what's your thoughts? And Dan recommended me, and Sam thought it was a great idea based on my knowledge and of working with Sam in the past, and that's how I guess a bill became a law in that situation. So I took over in August, unofficially took over in August of 23. It wasn't made official until the September meeting where Sam announced it. And since that meeting, again, I'm honored to follow in the footsteps of, number one, Tom Ferry, who was a father figure to me at Ferko. I grew up with Tom, and I had many fathers figures at Ferko. As a 14-year-old, I was one of the youngest ever to perform with Ferko, and when Dad was off doing his captain things, these gentlemen, Mike Caputo's and Tom Ferry's of the world, Al Koenig's, looked after me and showed me what it was like to be a gentleman, showed me what it was like to be a member of Ferko, and I considered him, adopted father. So to follow in the footsteps of Tom Ferry, a legend, Hall of Famer, Jack Daly, another legend, another Hall of Famer, and now me. It was an honor and humbling again. But I'm enjoying it. I'm truly enjoying it. It's different. It's behind the scenes.
It's a different
aspect of it.
Yeah, explain exactly what your position is.
Yeah, so multiple positions really. It kind of evolved, but by title, I am the committee of the judges committee. So I have a committee of 6 or 7 that are responsible for overseeing and administering the judges for New Year's Day. So the way the process goes is, we work year round. We have meetings, monthly meetings, to assure that we have everything in place and properly in place for the upcoming year. Around August, we'll start soliciting, applications for the judges. We'll review the judges' resumes and select a judging panel in September, and present it to the committee for approval at our September meeting. And then once that's approved, I'll announce to the association the breakdown of the judges, how many new judges we have, how many returning judges we have, what judges are in what categories, not mentioning names. We try to keep it, as anonymous as possible. It's getting a little bit more difficult with social media these days, but we do the best we can. And then on New Year's Day, my responsibility is to oversee the judges, assure that they are performing to the responsibilities of our requirements. And then New Year's night is where the real fun begins. And
Coin flip.
especially this year.
You had a fun Hall of Fame parade, didn't you?
Oh, this was phenomenal. One for the ages.
You'll never forget this
I
parade.
will never forget this parade in many ways. So, then my responsibility is to assure the tabulations, assure the prizes are locked in properly, and to release and announce the prizes on New Year's night. So, go ahead, you can ask the next question. Yes, this New Year's night was a little bit interesting.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that, but that's okay.
The tie was.
Tie was unique.
The tie was unique, and as I've said numerous times, we're using a system with professional judges who stand by their criteria and their numbers, and I purposely do not look at the scores. So what happens is.
It's live. I know
Yeah,
when it doing
judges,
competitions, it's live.
On competition, the software we use, Competition Suite, it's live. So the judges enter in their numbers live as the bands come through. It's not until we go back into the judges' room after the parade. Each judge comes up with me and the tabulator and verifies their scores. And at that point, all the scores, one by one, the judges are locked. So I have the ability, up front and for just letting everybody know that I have the ability to watch it live. I choose not to. I have other things I'm doing that day.
Yeah, you're busy.
But that night I also have the ability to view and review it, but I don't until everything's locked in.
Yeah.
Because once everything's locked in, then we have the results.
Yeah, because nothing's finalized until they lock everything in.
Absolutely. And this is the way the marching band circuit does it also.
Yeah.
So this is no different than what the marching band circuit does. The only difference with the marching band circuit is the judges have multiple times of seeing the routines. We're unique that the judges have 1 4.5 minute opportunity to review. So we give them an opportunity to review their scores and lock them in. And once they're locked in, that's when I look at the results. And I look at the results and with the tabulator, and I asked the tabulator to scroll over, and the horror of the same number for first prize hit me. And
Well, I mean, it's not like the bands make it easy on the judges.
no,
Every year it's better.
Listen, I in my phone, I think I brought this up at one of the association meetings. If you look at the gap between first prize and 14th prize, that has steadily narrowed.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to you
Yeah.
and those bands for stepping their games up. And I would hope that the information that the judges provide as part of their criteria, their critique, the roundtable discussion at New Year's night, then the roundtable discussion after New Year's. I would hope that the bands are taking what the judges say and growing from it.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you look at the gap, again, the gap is just narrowing, and that is the beauty of our parade.
Yeah, we're
I love
improving
it.
every year.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that the roundtable discussion that was started back a few years back when we had the recordings and all that stuff was really good. This year, the symposium you put together was excellent. I learned so much at that.
Even listening to the judges' tapes, like
Yeah.
the week after or whatever, they
So much detail.
They give you a lot to work with.
Absolutely, and that's what we're striving. We don't want them to be negative. We want them to be constructive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no,
You can be constructive without being negative.
Yeah, most of it, a lot of it's like, okay, well, you could next time do this, or next time do this here, or maybe not so much of this, maybe more of that.
Exactly, and it's amazing that this is my third year. I'm going into my fourth year, and the judges themselves love our competition, love our parade.
Oh yeah, they do. It's amazing talking to them.
They love what we do, and back to your question about what my role. I've expanded it a little bit over the last couple of years. That we've provided the ability for you to talk to the judges, but I also have taken the responsibility of talking to the judges one-on-one. What came out of that symposium was the judges came to me and said, how can we help this parade get better?
Yeah, and the we part is the best part about that.
How can we help this parade get better?
Yeah.
You can't ask for anything better than that comment in itself. And I sat down with my co-chair, Larry, who's in charge of the judges on New Year's Day, and I said, how can we build on this? How can we take that enthusiasm and grow on it together? So we had what was scheduled to be a 1-hour Teams meeting turned into a 2-hour discussion with the judges. Open forum. What can we do? What can you offer me? And we came up with a lot of ideas out of that. And one of the great ideas was they want to know us. They want to know our lingo. They want to know our language. They want to know when we say a back piece,
Right.
Where did that come from? How did that, plumes, costumes, suits,
Yeah.
all our inside language and also our inside logistics and stuff, which is actually a very interesting point. One of the things that came up in that 2-hour conversation, just me and the judges, was about props on New Year's Day. And one of the judges said to me, he says, I just can't grasp why is there so much difficulty with moving props on New Year's Day? And I said, do you realize that 90%, if not more, of the people pushing the props on New Year's Day are pretty much New Year's shooters?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean? I said, they show up on New Year's Day and they're told, push that from there to there. And they're like, are you kidding me? So it's that. Then the conversation turned into the suits. Whoever, if mummers are listening and have access to the roundtable discussion at New Year's night, a lot of good information came out of that as a general.
Yes.
So I would recommend everybody listen to that. One of the comments was about suits and these cumbersome suits. And some bands struggle with spacing and, all that kind of good stuff with presentation. And I said, he asked me, he said, well, how often do they rehearse with their suits? And I said, well,
3-4 times before you did march down the street.
if you're lucky,
Yeah.
if you're lucky, right?
I was hanging the last of our suits up at 12:30 in the morning, New Year's Day.
Right.
I know.
You know?
Yeah. I know.
You were right there with
I know
me.
a lot of bands may have a jacket. They may have the suit, but they'll have the jacket on or the pants, or they won't have the whole thing.
Right.
No.
And-
Maybe
and-
a hat a couple weeks before, but outside of that, you don't.
But then it actually started going into some creative thought process, right? That, we started talking about the way bands are structured. You have a theme chairman, you have a costume chairman, you have a drill director, you have a music.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't see that all come together until dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
know, suits clash or they're too big, to perform the drill, and they were just amazed at our culture, and one of the good things that came out of it was that, we're going to actually give them a rundown, a mummer's overview, a string band overview, a presentation that we're going to put together.
A Mummers 101.
A Mummers 101.
Well, you're a good person.
Exactly.
And you're great for that, with being a former, with doing the stuff that you did with your father and different things like that, and then being theme chairman for Ferko for those years. You have an insight that not everybody has.
I appreciate that, but again,
But no,
I'm
I mean,
looking to surround.
but I'm just saying. I mean, your input that you can go down and grab a banjo player, and he'll know his routine, but he doesn't know the whole show.
Exactly.
And might not understand the whole show.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that banjo player doing that. It's just that the creativity, not everybody has that. And trust me, it's really cool when you sit down with somebody who's very creative.
Yeah, it is, and
It's exciting.
It's and for the judges to ask those questions, just made me feel good that they want to be part of this.
Yes.
And they were actually thanking me for judging our, parade. I'm like, wait a second,
Oh, I've heard the judges before with the symposiums we used to have back in the day. And when I say back in the day, 5-6 years ago,
absolutely.
They talk about, like, they show up to a marching band competition in September, and they pull out their binder and confetti falls out, and they start giggling because they know it's from New Year's.
Absolutely. And I'm going to make a statement. They have binders.
Yes.
And it was one of the interesting things that I learned is that they actually do their homework.
Oh yeah.
I've seen them come with a binder, and all that information you provide me,
They have it.
they have it,
And they know it.
and they know it, and
They know it inside and out.
They make notes, and they know your routine based on those comments and that questionnaire I put out, in December. They study that. And,
Oh, yeah.
I
knew
I
that.
hope everybody would understand that.
I know that listening to the captain's recordings this year, because the way our show opened up, I had my brother come out as the villain, and I had him there, and they confused him at first with the captain.
I got 2 stories I can tell
And
you on that.
and then I came out, and they go, "Oh no, he's all in white. He's the captain." And they said that immediately, and I'm like, I didn't do a good job explaining why he's coming out.
No, absolutely.
So in my judge's card, I failed explaining what was happening. So I knew that I didn't take it as, oh, they don't know who the captain is. I took it as, I didn't explain it properly. So I knew that right off the bat. But I know other people have had those issues too. But it's just to me I know it. I didn't explain the story correctly.
So
At least for me, I could be wrong.
when we did Fish Stick, and I was the fisherman. That's a funny story in itself.
They thought you were the captain.
They thought I was the captain. So I actually have a captain's prize without having a captain's prize.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations with the captain's prize.
Yeah,
So we got to add that to your resume.
the judges like, oh, well, the fisherman, we saw the captain in the beginning. We didn't see the captain until the end. And, I'm not sure what was going on there. I'm like, oh, all right, well, hey, Dad, sorry, I was captain that year.
So we need you to get a black vest, blazer now.
Nah, I have dads.
You have dads.
I'm good. So real funny story with that. Again, whatever Dad needed me to do and whatever the band needed me to do, it was all about the band and the success of the band. And Dad hit me with, hey, listen, I got this idea. He said, I'm going to need you to be a fisherman on the routine. I was like, all right, no problem.
Whatever you need.
Whatever you need. I was a newspaper boy. I was a shoe shine boy. Whatever. Fisherman. He said, but, we're going to have his wave rolling in the beginning. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. He said, what's your thoughts about being 10 feet off the ground? I was like, what? He said, I haven't figured out how we're going to do this yet, but you're going to ride the wave in across the thing. And if you watch closely, now that was
I'm
when
going to have to go back and watch it.
This is when we were walking up Broad Street and performing all the way up in routine.
Handheld props?
Yeah, 2-man on a prop. All right. So if you look at the wave, right, the wave was set up in 2 sections. My brother, I think Phil was on one. My Uncle John, and I think Mike Crescetti was on the other. And, it was split in the middle, and that was the 2-man on the prop rule, right? So, we're thinking about this, following this. So what happened was he found 2 guys that were sorry, Gar, but as stupid as I was, who agreed to allow me to ride on their backs across the routine. So, Gar, I love you. You say, Gary Pizarnik, I love you for this, but you were my life that day. So all the way up the street, we were fine. We were perfect. Now, if you think about it, that was the days when we started at the line.
You marched in.
We marched in. So we were legitimately walking on an angle, right? Because the waves coming in, we're going across. So we weren't going. It was.
Yeah, you're constantly going forward.
Yeah, you're constantly going forward in a parallel universe, right? Situation. So all the way up the street, we were fine. It was working. Now these 2 guys, my life obviously was riding on it. If you watch closely, there's a part of the routine where I grab Gary, who's the front guy, who's now the vice president of Durning, stumbled.
Oh.
He claims he stepped on something, but I don't ever remember seeing anything down there. But he stumbled, and you look, and I like, it was like the old crap situation, But
you know what though? You're riding a big wave in. That probably was a good look.
I think I got 3rd prize captain that year. So I had to tell those stories.
That's awesome.
There's so many stories like that with Dad and whatever you need me to do. So love them to death and miss them dearly. But if we can just continue this tradition the way it is and grow it like Sam and his team are trying to do, I think we'll be here for a long time.
Just remember, you're part of that team.
Yeah, I'm honored. So,
well, as you said, we're all a part of it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. And
it takes everybody.
It takes all of us to be successful, and we're all representatives of Philadelphia.
Yes.
We're all representatives of the String Band Association. Mm-hmm. We're all representatives of the Mummers.
Yeah.
Right? So no matter where we go, no matter what we do, we're representatives of this hobby. And, we have bands that are in Ireland. We have bands that go to Texas. We have bands that go, overseas and to representing us. And that is one of the biggest honors that you can have. And, it's just amazing that the people that going full circle, the faces and these parades in Rhode Island on 4th of July.
And you also see it on the social media side of things when I look at our little map. I mean, you get United Kingdom, you get California, you get Ireland, you get here, there, everywhere. and it's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
And they thank you when you
Right.
come
Yeah.
because they're like, you guys could be in a parade by home, but you're here with us.
absolutely.
And it's awesome. And it was we did the Baltimore parade for St. Patrick's Day, and that was amazing. Just get the people. Oh, I want to. Oh, the Mummers. We love the Mummers. Let's get a photo. Let's get a photo. And it was just
Yeah, you're a highlight of their day, and that's those 5-6 hour bus rides to New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and to do a 5 mile parade just to get on a bus and 6 hours back. It's
it's a
actually
15-hour day for a 2-mile parade.
it's actually worth it. And when you see that, and wall to wall people and smiling and waiting for you, like you said,
Yeah.
we're the Mummers, and
yeah.
and
Just sitting down in Baltimore. What do we have? Like 5 or 6 photographers just hang out with us.
it's
And
just
they're
amazing.
just sitting there taking photos of me, taking photos of our dancers, taking photos of our banjo players, and they just all they want to do is just take photos of you, and then they would walk away and come back and just like click like you're. It's just like, whoa, wait a minute, what did I just say?
and it's a lot to be proud of.
It's awesome.
The history of it and the future of what we're doing, and
It's a great hobby.
it is. It truly is, and
I captained a band at the Woodbury Fall Parade, and we had stopped, and there was like I was just working the crowd, right, and this little probably I don't know 3-4-year-old come darting to me. I picked them up, and like the mother was like, he never does this.
Right.
He never leaves my side.
right. Yeah,
And like went out, danced with him, and yeah. So that's what you're talking about.
that is
Yeah.
that feeling, and
It's a great feeling.
It is.
And that's a 4-year-old coming over to you,
Right. Right.
Well, we did a parade. We did the Hamilton St. Patrick's Day parade, and 3/4 of the way through, there's the police always work the intersections. It's there. They're protecting us. They're protecting the parade. And it was funny. We had the one officer came out, and I recognized him from the year before because we stopped there, and it was a little raining, so we're trying to, when it rains and we're performing, we're trying to get off the fruit.
Right.
And he came out.
Same intersection.
Same intersection, same everything. And he comes out and he loops around in front, and I go, "It's you again. Every year it's you."
He's got his phone
And
taking video.
And all I could see is his partner just going, no.
But he's out there
But
having a
he's
good
out
time.
there balling. I'm like,
Yep.
no. We stayed there. We played a song. We got there. I was out there, do-si doing with them, having some fun. And that's the little stuff that just means the world. It doesn't matter whatever happened whatever else is going on in the world, that little minute there, it's just pure joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the times where we have the opportunity to go play for the children in the hospital,
That is amazing. I got to dance with Santa Claus this past year. That was
You did.
awesome. That was fun.
You did. Dance with
Yeah,
Santa
I
Claus.
got
and Mrs. Claus.
and Mrs. Claus. I got Jad. hey, Pat, go get Santa Claus up. I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah, but those are the things that we need to do better at promoting, and the year-round
Yes.
excitement, the year-round enthusiasm, the year-round celebration. Look, for 4.5 minutes on New Year's Day, we're competing. But
Yeah.
the reality is, for 364 days of the year, we're friends.
Yeah.
We're all friends within the Mummer community.
Yeah.
And we need to grow that friendship and that support, and support each other, to keep this tradition going.
Yeah. Yeah, my first real time interacting with you was back in what was it, 2016? Field of Screams. Was it Field of Screams you guys did?
Oh, yeah.
And then that was
You're gonna tell the story.
You were my hero that day
You're
when
gonna
you
tell
when
the
you kept
story,
when you
right?
kept my it's over with now, but it was us. It was you. You were ending the parade. We were right in front of you with Broomall, and Duffy was in front of us. And you had a friend that was able to secure our same spot to keep our trucks afterwards, and that was amazing. And then I'm go back to go say thank you to you, and you disappear.
Pat, you're telling all my secrets, Pat. You can't tell people that I stretched the rules. Come on.
See, the ones that know how to stretch the rules are the best ones you put in charge to keep from people from stretching the rules.
I do have the anti-drone rule
Yes.
in effect now.
Yes.
That was because you guys had the the ghosts.
I still kick myself in the butt for that day, because when we left we did construction that year. We left the judging stand. I went with the band. I was the chief marshal still. I was a costume performer that day, but I was the chief marshal. I went with the band. As they left, I pulled back pieces off because we had the construction sign back pieces, and I put them in the truck. And then I was gonna either go around City Hall or cut back, and I came back over, and you guys were all set up, and they waved me through. They're like, "We're in commercial for 30 seconds, Pat. You're good." And I'm like, why couldn't they just tell me to stay? That show was amazing.
Those
I would
people
love to see that in person.
Those people running the parade now are tough people.
Yeah, they're tough people there. But I was able to, get back cut across the front there before you guys started. But they were still in commercial, so you guys were just. Yeah. We've all set up, and and then this year we get yelled at because I'm out there congratulating you. And, Pat, we're ready to go. Pat, we're ready to go. I'm like, oh,
yeah, you guys,
yeah.
I'm looking over. You two are hugging. I'm like, what is happening right now? We gotta go.
Well, I come up, I hug him, I hug the guy with the orange sleeve because I know him from Phillies,
Eric.
and
yeah. So
and you're like, how do you know? We do Phillies together.
So let's go into that moment. What are you doing right there? Before the bands start their performances.
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to earlier, the position evolved as team chairman to a little bit of organizing and running the parade, and so as part of the judging requirement, right, is that the judges turn around. Mm-hmm. So the bands can set up. So what happened was that there had to be somebody there to tell the judges when to turn around and allow the bands to set up. And then when the bands are ready, how many times I say to you, "Hey, Pat, are you ready?" I chase you around, walking around.
And what do I say back to you? How much time do I got left?
Yeah. Always stretching the time limits.
We're all set with 1 minute, and I'm like, how much time we have left? You're in a minute in. I'm like, oh, we're good. Let me go make sure everybody's lined up. Is that square? It's still sideways, but it's all right.
And so to your question, so it evolved, right? So originally I was there just to alert the judges, bands are coming in, turn around, stay turned around until I tell you to turn back, and then the bands can start their routine. The thought process behind the turning the judges around is obviously surprises. When you're setting up, if somebody's getting in a prop as a surprise, the judges see that, so the judges turn around.
Oh yeah, your Field of Scream thing when you came out of the front there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't know you were there until
exactly
until you moved. So that was the part I understand that 100%.
Yeah, so the judges turn around, and it just eventually evolved into me coordinating with the TV, because now TV's in a commercial, and the judges. I don't want the judges just turning around staring at a band for 2 minutes while the TV is in commercial.
Or we start 30 seconds early and you don't see the first 30 seconds of a show. And
so it turned into more of with Sam and the parade committee. Mike Riddle, I think Mike was here last week, 2 weeks ago, and working with those gentlemen, it just the position just evolved to the point where I'm kind of managing the
judging area.
The judging area, and
you did a great job this year. Everything worked. At least for me, it seemed like it worked. For our band, it seemed like it worked great.
Oh, thank you, and I appreciate that. And again, not needed. It's just I love doing it. I enjoy doing it, and more importantly, I respect what you are doing. And everybody has the right to be judged properly. Everybody has the right to be on TV properly. And if I could be that one person to help you perform properly, I'm happy. That made my day.
Well, you're basically now with your position of making sure everybody's ready to start at the proper time. You are basically controlling everybody's, the viewing public's happiness and enjoyment of the parade. So you're still entertaining people. You might not get the face-to-face love that is so much better.
No, and it's funny you say that because my audience now is you, right?
Well, it is to a point. It is, but it's also
to see your smiling face,
yes.
to see you New Year's morning shake hands and say Happy New Year.
Right.
That is my enjoyment now, and to see a band successfully. Great job, congratulations, and I'll see you guys at the serenade.
Yeah,
you get to enjoy that 14 times instead of one.
Yeah, you get to enjoy that. You get to enjoy everybody's struggle all year long for that, because you know how it is. There's some days you go to rehearsal, and it's just a train wreck.
Yep, absolutely.
And you'll come and you'll just like, all right, let's call it a night. We'll talk tomorrow. And then you come back the next one. It's the easiest rehearsal you had ever in your life. It's just like, what the heck happened between Saturday and today?
Yeah,
it's just
been there, done that.
We've had those train wreck. It just, where you do the first rehearsal, your first run through, and it's just like, oh, how did someone not die?
It's funny because I thought I made a major mistake this year. So. Scott Ratsky Jr., first year captain of Ferko String Band, my alma mater. I never really had a chance to congratulate him, and just timing wise, it just never allowed me to do it. So New Year's Day, the band's set up, and he's standing there and is getting ready to do his presentation. And I'm like, maybe now's the time to go up and congratulate him. And after I did it, I was like, I cringed. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to this kid. I knew him when he was a baby, and one of the best compliments I got was, I saw him afterwards, a couple days afterwards. I was talking to him, and I said, I apologized. I said, Scott, I am so sorry. I said, I don't know what I was thinking. He said, Lou, to be honest with you, you put me at ease. You made me feel comfortable in the position I was in. He said, I don't know why, how, what. He said, and to this day, I still apologize to him. But, if I can lend that kind of support, to a drill director, one first-time drill director coming to the line and not sure, the process, and I got you. I got you. We're in this together. Let's work together. It happened this year with one band that, the drill director blew the whistle premature, and I stopped them. And the drummer happened to be right there. I knew, again, going to the bands, I knew who started the band. I knew the drummer was the line of sight, so I can start and stop the clock, which is actually something that evolved too with the role.
Everything for the better.
I had the drummer's eye, and we were still in commercial, and the drill director blew the whistle, and I'm like, no, wait, on me. And I talked to the drill director. He's like, look, he said, I was so worried about other things, and it happens.
You walk up to that line, and it's amazing how quickly 4.5 minutes disappears.
I always said
it's the fastest 4.5 minutes ever.
I always said if I don't remember what happened in front of the judges,
it was a good run.
It was a good run.
Yeah.
If I remembered,
yes,
it was because something went wrong.
You're right. Because I don't. This year was the first year I remember any of the drill.
That means you were very well prepared. You knew your role.
Except for this year.
Except for this year.
But this year, and because I've always said I don't remember any of the performance in front of the judges ever.
No.
Until this year, and I missed.
There are a few. Coming back, I can remember one or two. One that comes to mind was the Indian year, and it wasn't necessarily from a mistake. It was more from exhaustion. And, the drill director and the choreographer asked me to asked the dancers to jump up on the platform at the end. Well, the platform's like 3.5, 4 feet up, and if you haven't looked at me lately,
Yeah, no.
I got small legs.
Yeah.
You know, and by the end, we're in front of the judges. I'm like, I don't know if I'm making it up there. You know, and I remember that moment because I did yet make it up there. I guess my adrenaline just took over, but that was that one moment. I'm like, I remember that, but I don't remember anything else for that routine. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, it's
This
if I can make people comfortable, I'm happy. I'm doing my job.
Yeah. No,
That's your satisfaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny how like certain drills you remember better than others, and certain ones you don't. I mean, I like there's certain things like our beach year. That was the year I came up. I just recovered from COVID, and I remember going in the back and changing my jacket. And that was already after I ripped the sleeve off because the jacket wasn't made correctly at the pinch point. But I remember putting the jacket on and grabbing the ice cream cart, and I'm like, I don't know if I can go back out because I was just physically exhausted.
Absolutely.
And I remember going back out there, and I remember the drill being over, and me smacking a beach ball into the judges. That's it. I don't remember. I remember pushing the cart out. I don't remember anything else until I smacked the beach ball
I
into
think
the
one
judges.
of the judges brought that up.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't remember. It wasn't intentional. But this year, the way the drill was written for me this year, I had the least interaction with the band, and I was going around the band more than I was going, and it was just like. Normally, I see the show, and I'm usually watching. Like I key off of them. Like I pick when I'm learning my routine, and I intermix it with the band. I pick one performer for each of my cues.
Right.
So I look for the same performer every time, and I only had one time where I had to look for a performer coming back. Outside of that, I didn't see the show until after I watched it.
Oh, how about that?
So I mean, I knew the show because I was drilling the band when our drill master wasn't there, and then I passed it off to Alex to drill for the last couple of weeks so I can learn my routine,
right,
and interrupt and put me in there. But yeah, this was the first year that I did the whole routine, and just like, how are we here already?
That's the sign of a good. That's a sign of a well prepared person.
This is the slowest 4.5 minutes of my life that day.
No.
I'm going to kick myself for it until next year.
Yeah. That's right.
Listen, the best thing you can do is and
move on to the next performance.
You know what's funny? Bringing up judges, the judges will actually say they don't have a problem with mistakes. It's how you recover.
Yeah, how you move on from them.
And they actually will give you more credit for recovering than the mistake.
Yeah.
Because in their minds, you're very well trained, you're very well rehearsed, that you're smart enough to know how to get back.
Just move on to the next move.
And not let it affect you. So that's critical. That you just got to from a performer's perspective, make a mistake, recover, and move on. You know? That's critical. But then judges actually recognize that. It's interesting to hear them talk about that too. So.
No, well, we're human, and they know that.
Right. And
when we do stuff, it is what it is, and it works out, and it's fun. I mean, I love doing this. This is,
from a competition point of view, you think about it, and I talked about it earlier. They only have one time to see this.
Oh yeah. But they have the notebook, and they know what we've done in the past, and I know some people don't like that, but I mean, it is what it is, and I mean, it's not hard to know, to figure out what we are.
Right.
Especially in this day and age. And I just, even at the symposium, these judges that I sat down with, they were like, we remember you your first year.
Right.
And you've gone from the floor to here. The problem is you need to go from here now to the ceiling.
Yeah, take it another step.
So you've gone so far,
right?
But you have the ceiling to get to, and it's night and day difference.
Right.
So and the fact that they care enough to actually study our hobby.
Absolutely. That
means the world, because you could just have somebody that has no clue and go, well, I like Quaker, so Quaker's going to win, or I like Durning, and Durning's going to win. Right. It's just what it is, and you don't want that. You want someone to see what you're doing and what you're performing and how you're doing it. And I really, I mean, I like the fact that we had judges do the same category over again, because we listen to these tapes and they tell us what we could do better.
Right.
And then we move them somewhere else. And then they got to go, and then you do what they told you to do better, and you go, well, why did you do that?
Yeah, it's...
I had captain judges tell me that, why is he sneaking in through the band? And they all go, oh, that's so awesome. He's just popping out of the band. It's just
Right.
like, oh, come on, the same performance.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, guys, come on, just give me the same thing.
There is something to...
But they're all unique.
There is something to rotating and moving in and out. But then there is also something to stability. And personally, I'm honored to be the lead of my committee, but the committee is the deciding factor. Mm-hmm. So I'm just honored to be and privileged to be their lead and their spokesman. Personally, my personal feelings behind a lot of this is I'd rather know who I'm building a routine to. Do we need to rotate judges in and out? Yes. But to your point, should they be the same caption? Probably, for consistency.
At least one. At least one needs to stay in that caption. And I mean, I know secrets, being a secret, having everybody's secret of who's the judges or what. But if you knew who the judges were, not saying that you don't contact the judges, but with Competition Suite, all the recordings are there. Mm-hmm. You can go back and listen to that judge and study what they're looking for. Whether they move from music to music effect, you can still listen to what they said to your performance 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
right? And
go back and go, okay, well, he's looking for this. And he's looking for that. And I've talked to the one music judge goes, I see these bass fiddles come out and they're all standing sideways. And no one has the bell. And I sat there the first year, our bass fiddle player coming out, and he comes out, he does the drill. I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong. Well, what do you mean? I go, you learn the whole drill sideways.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're standing to the side the whole drill. What do you mean? No, I want everything facing forward. And the judge, and it was awesome because when he did the performance, he came all the way out front and he's sitting there, he walked forward sideways. And the judge goes, I greatly appreciate the bass fiddle facing forward.
If you listen to the round table, New Year's night round table, one judge, if not two, actually say that they don't understand why we put saxophones behind each other. Yeah. That they should offset them to allow the sound come through and not be blocked. And a lot of good, useful information in that round table.
And then the positioning of the drummer.
Besides the use of confetti poofs. One judge says the confetti poofs are overpowering the band. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
No, but no. The other was the percussion. Yeah. The location of the percussion, and
they gave us credit for that at the symposium.
Yeah, some really good comments there. It was general comments.
Yes, and then it's a lot of good, useful information. You have to weed through some of it. You got to know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
People can listen. Oh, they just don't like us. That's not what he's saying. Right. When they say, I can hear you at a step, well, he's telling you what you're doing wrong.
Right, exactly.
He's literally telling you what you need to fix to do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
And you just need to understand what he's saying. And they have a lingo, too, that we don't all understand.
Yeah, that and I think that's part of what they want to know, our lingo, so they can communicate.
Yes.
They could communicate properly to our lingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always love the suit comments. Just, if you spend a little bit of time making sure the suits are all cut there. I'm sitting there here. I'm like, dude, I walked in at 6 a.m.
They don't know that.
And then they didn't fit, and we just sat there with the scissors and made them fit.
Yeah. That's all the stuff that they're asking to know about, and know about. They didn't even know that that this is they knew it was a hobby, but they didn't know that, the effort that we have to put in. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursdays. I think you guys rehearse on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
They want to know all of that. Props. Well, how come the props? Well, sometimes the props don't show up until New Year's Day.
Well, our props are built 5 miles away.
Right.
And I mean, unless I'm getting a rider truck to bring them back and forth every rehearsal.
Exactly. I mean, not every band has the luxury of having, the ability to drill with their props on a daily basis. And it was one thing that I did with and Dad did was, we always try to. It was a little bit harder back in the day when everything was moving in. We didn't have a set, but he always tried to put something where the props were, and try to mimic where the props would be. But I mean, we had remote, warehouses and everything. The train year, our warehouse was in South Philly, and we were in Bridesburg. And 2 weeks before New Year's, we're under 95, front and 95, Front Street and 95, Swanson, whatever that street is there, rehearsing with the trains. The 5 or 6 trains that he had to come out.
Was there any a thought of maybe? I don't know if this is a line drawn or anything, but like give them a tour of each band, like. Go to their club and see this is what we're working with. I don't know if that's a feasible thing. It's crossing the line of some sort.
Well, we try to keep them neutral, but not giving away. Not going to give away, but we're working on something.
Okay.
We're working on something to help the bands prepare for New Year's Day. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Whether or not it passes or not, through the association, we had a real good meeting, real good conversation, and we have an idea that's unique. It's different, but we might be able to give additional support to the bands prior to New Year's Day.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much over the last couple years with
any little bit helps.
With the judges card, how important the judges card is. How you have to, as they like to say, if it takes you longer to explain it than what the performance takes, it's too much information, but you have to put all the information in there at the same time. And it was funny because that was one of the questions we asked at that symposium. What did you think of our judges card? That's one of the questions we asked. It's like, was it too much information? Not enough information? No. It was like a paragraph and a half. It was perfect.
Right.
And we knew exactly what you were doing, and you had everything there, and we'll sit there and tell them the whole story.
You just hit nail on the head. If you're telling a story,
tell them the story.
Tell them the story.
So they can see the story.
And, the judges' cards are due first week in December. You should have your story pretty much well developed at that point.
Yes.
I mean, I know some things change and, some last minute ideas come up, and I get that. But your story should be ready by the first week of December. Tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, I went back before we put the judges card in, and I went back and read what we submitted to the judges committee for theme submission. And our story was very close. It changed. Don't get me wrong. It definitely changed. But the start and end were the same.
Right.
The start and end was the same. It's the filler in the middle that was the stuff that got adjusted a little bit. It still took you the same path. It just got, you might have made a right instead of a left. And I went back and looked, and I'm like, okay, good. We at least covered everything in there. And I knew, our judges' submission our theme submission was online with what we were doing.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point that I'd like to address is the theme submission. As a member of that committee under Dan Spencer, not one of us don't understand that things change.
Yeah.
We're asking you to put a theme together, in theory, in February.
Yeah.
The reality is, it's going to evolve.
I mean, our theme's already, from what we put in February 1st or whatever that Saturday, whatever that Sunday was, till today,
Right.
is our theme that we submitted was very general. And we covered an area and said this to this, and we didn't have a lot of details in there, but it was enough to cover to at least get an understanding of what we're going for. We had, stuff thrown to the wall and seeing what stuck and what order you can put it in.
Right, absolutely.
And now we have a better idea. We better have a better theme. So there's still more that needs to be adjusted and fine-tuned, but once I have that fine-tuned, then I'll update that and we'll go from there and move forward from there.
But conceptually, you're still doing the
I'm still doing the same theme.
Right.
Yes.
The theme's still the same.
Exactly.
It's just, we're not sitting there like, oh, well, we're doing this, it's just, it's a little bit different of what it is.
No, I understand. And we all know. I mean, Danny was a drill director. You have the leaders on that theme committee that know what it's like to put a theme together and a routine together. And the understanding's there that things are going to evolve.
Oh, yeah.
But if conceptually, if you're doing the same idea, we get it. It's all
Yeah,
good.
it's all good. It's good there. And then honestly, music is the most important thing in that theme submission. So that way
Absolutely.
you don't want every band playing, plenty of money.
Now,
Then you get the mum means pop up with like 8 bands playing the same song.
we are a musical organization.
Yes,
so,
we are.
So it all starts with music. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I love this part of the hobby.
Absolutely.
The whole design part, the whole setting up of it. We had a theme meeting last night, and I'm still hyped from that.
Good.
So I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to go. And that's what makes January the hardest month of the year, because you're just like, all right, well, I should be going to storage now. I guess I'm not. What's on TV?
Yeah.
I can put my Netflix password back in, because it's been so long since I logged in.
Going to the warehouse after New Year's is probably one of the worst feelings in the world.
We just go in. Outside of taking a few
terrible.
stuff, it's just like
It's terrible. You're like, you're reminiscing of all the long hours that it took you to put that together, and now you're going to spend...
Now it doesn't mean anything.
Now you're going to spend the day of just tearing it apart.
Doesn't mean anything now. Yeah. You work so hard not to scrape something, not to break, and now you're taking stuff. You're like,
The saw, get your saws all out and just chop it off.
I was Alice in Wonderland here. I remember spending so many hours working on that freaking worm, and at the end, I'm like this. They're pushing it back, and we're trying to fit it into the truck, and nothing's going back in. And it's just like, I look over at a couple of marshals that are like full-time marshals. I'm like, bring me the head and the wheel. I don't want anything else. What? I go, I want the head. I want the wheels.
Right.
Nothing else.
My worst year was Field of Screams, and
You guys that was a cool theme.
all those corn stalks.
Oh yeah.
We had corn stalks, corn. We had corn all over the place. It was just, I mean, they were legitimate corn stalks that we had
And
gotten.
you can get them that time.
Yeah, right. That time of the year.
Hay barrels, all that stuff.
Tearing them apart, and it's like, what a mess.
I don't know, man. When they had the trash trucks there on Ben Franklin Parkway, they probably went right in that. Come on, we did the Ben Franklin Parkway. I just remember them you go over to the trash truck, cut it.
Yeah, just throw it in. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
what was your? We're gonna, wind down here.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
I just want to ask what was a theme that was one of your favorites that you've been a part of with Ferko?
Yeah, Field of Screams. I think that was one of from the band. One of my favorite accomplishments. We were behind in production in September, and sitting at a board meeting, and the president at the time, I think Steve Bujanowski, was discussing. We were behind, and nothing is. The props from the previous year, we were just joking about it, weren't even torn apart yet. They were still sitting in the warehouse, and Steve looked at me, and I made the mistake. We always joked as a board of director, you never look up, never make eye contact to the president.
I think we can do this.
because you're always going to get roped into something.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and he said, "Lou, can you help?" And I was like, "Ah."
Yes.
So, at the time, my mother-in-law was very sick. Dad was still, struggling with cancer, fighting cancer. And I had to go home and tell my wife that I'm going to be spending a lot of time at the warehouse for the rest of the year. And the fact that the band got themselves on the street was an accomplishment that I felt and competed, right? Competed. I mean, we were a quarter of a point away from first prize. The fact that we worked as a team through October, November, and December to get the band on the street, successfully on the street, and competed on New Year's Day. I think that was probably one of my favorite accomplishments as an organization. Personally, obviously, the 1982, the pride of walking into St. John Newman as a first prize newspaper boy to all my fellow mummers. And then the fisherman was cool too.
Yeah, you were a captain.
I was unofficial captain for the year. I look back and they were all special.
Yeah.
They were all special because I spent it with my dad, spent it with my brother, my uncle. I spent it with family, my extended family, the people I grew up with and became close friends with. Our kids grew up together, right?
Yeah.
You were going up to New York to a weekend state fair up in New York with our children, and now we're marrying our children, right? We're celebrating the weddings of our children. Now we're celebrating grandchildren, and it's those memories and those that family that I cherish. That to today, I'm still great friends and family with the people that I grew up with. And
Absolutely.
That's the stuff that's important to me.
Oh, yeah.
What happens through the years, we had some roller coasters up and down, and you had a lot of success through the 90s. And, I look back and I have no regrets other than not having a picture with my daughter that last year. But, we did it right, and we did it. We did it under the name Joseph A. Ferko, and people forget there's a name behind that.
Yeah.
There's a person behind that.
Yeah.
And I lied. One regret is not knowing Joe Ferko, right? So, Joe passed, I guess, in '66. I wasn't even born at that point, but hearing the stories about Joe and who he was and the person that he represented and the way he presented himself, and if I could have been 10% of him growing up, I think I probably was successful. I lived. I heard the stories through the people that did know him, through Dad, and then the people that didn't know him. And, people forget that the Ferko String Band is actually the Joseph A. Ferko String Band. There's a name behind it. Yep. And that gentleman, just the story behind it, Joe's Boys, if anybody ever read Joe's Boys, is just an interesting way that the whole band is established. So, one or two, it's the family that it's you guys.
Yeah.
It's the ability to sit on a boardwalk in Ocean City and have you walk by, and Robert and I hug me and shake my hand, and
We sat there and serenaded you while you're eating dinner.
That's
Oh yeah, that's right.
that's what I cherish, the friendship and the ability to call you guys friends, and part of our mummers family is something that I'll cherish forever, really.
Yeah, and we do too, and I know I do too, and I'm sure Alex does as well. And I mean, it's you have family without being blood,
Absolutely.
and that is so, it's so great. I mean, I'm lucky enough to do this with both my parents, both my brothers, my 2 sons perform with me. It's so special, but like, we'll go and have Thanksgiving dinner, or we'll have Easter dinner coming up, and we'll have what, 5 or 6 members from our band will be there having dinner at my mom's table.
That's awesome.
You know, we sit there and we'll all sit around one table, and we'll break each other's stones, and we'll have fun, and we'll have dinner, and then the board games come out, and you play and you sit there, and I look so forward to that. And we do it again at Thanksgiving, do it again at Christmas, and like, you know, my family, how we've always been is like very Polish family. We, you know, you always make enough. You know, you invite 10 people over and make food for 40.
Right.
You know, so and then everybody's welcome.
No different than the Italians.
Yes, and but we sit there and we have tons and tons of food, and it's come on, no, I don't. Come, because otherwise I got to take it all home, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because
it's great.
It's funny because you think the last 3 months of the year, right? Last 4 months of the year, you spend more time with the people of your organization in some senses than your own family.
Yes.
You know, you're lucky you get home at 11 o'clock at night and kiss your wife goodnight, and next morning you're up at work, or right back to the warehouse, and you might not see her until 11 o'clock the following day. And it's.
But you kind of look forward to it too. As much as your body is saying go home, go to bed, you're like, no, I got to go there, and like. What are you doing? I'll be here till I don't know. The gates lock at 11, so maybe 11. Maybe 11:30. I'll just get out.
It's in your blood.
It's so much fun, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Absolutely, it's always in your blood. It'll always be in your blood, and I'm just honored and privileged to be in the position I am to continue this tradition.
Yes. So, well, I'm honored to have you as a friend.
Feelings are mutual, bud.
So,
thank you.
Absolutely.
The feelings are mutual.
Thank you, Lou, for coming up.
No problem.
And hanging out with us for a little bit and sharing your story. And I know a lot of people probably already know, but for those who don't, I mean, it's a great story. So
you're now one of the people behind the scenes that make this happen.
Yeah.
Well, again, I can't say it enough. I said it 9 million times. Honored, humbled, and just proud to be part of this. And part of this podcast really is what you guys are doing is promoting our hobby, the better part of our hobby, right? And the good part of our hobby, I shouldn't say that, the good part of our hobby. And I thank you for that, because it's needed.
Give it all to Alex, because this is Alex's idea. I'm just the color commentary.
as we learned earlier.
Yes, I'm just the guy to talk about stuff, and he brings me back in. So
I'm Al Michaels. He's John Madden.
Don't give me a pen so I can start writing and stuff. See right here. No.
Boom.
You got the Walton bus out back.
Off to the mountains.
Awesome time.
Awesome.
I can't thank you for asking me to come up, and it was good. I
knew you
enjoyed
were
it.
nervous about doing this, but you were.
Yeah, as you can tell, it's
You're now relaxed. I can see you sitting back a little bit.
Just get me started.
Yeah.
You're just gonna pull that string. We'll get you going.
The nervousness was more of I just see myself as part of a larger organization, and I don't like it to be about me, and that's the nervousness. I don't like talking about me.
You don't do this. You don't do this for self. You don't do this for self promotion, but that is what makes you such a great person for this association.
I appreciate it. So
you dedicate a lot of your life to this. Between hours, stress, and stuff like that you're retired. You don't have to do this. You can show up at the club New Year's morning and
Just
go,
wait till I
hey, good beer. Let's go. Good job. I'll see you guys when you get back.
Sometimes my day job wonders what the hell I do for a living.
I just love when I just love around New Year's when I'm calling you. He goes, yeah, I'm in Florida. I'll be back on. What are you? We were just saw you yesterday. Yeah. I got on a plane and okay, Lou.
That was for my kids.
I know.
my two kids live in Florida, so
Yeah.
that was to go visit them and my grandson. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we do jump back and forth to Florida, so it's good thing.
Absolutely. So.
All right. Again, thank you,
Alex.
very
Thank
much.
you,
Thank
Pat.
you. Lou.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
You.
Look forward to another successful year.
We'll see you
Absolutely.
soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody, like, subscribe, do what you gotta do. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Yes.